Chapter 1 of The Fairies and the Christmas Child. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Brian Daniels. The Fairies and the Christmas Child by Lillian Gask. Chapter 1. The Fairy Ring. The worst of being a Christmas child is that you don't get birthday presents, but only Christmas ones. Old Naylor, who was Father's coachman, and had a great gruff voice that came from his boots, and was rather frightening, used to ask how I expected to grow up without proper birthdays, and I thought I might have to stay little always. When I told Father this, he laughed, but a moment later he grew quite grave. "Listen, Chris," he said, and then he took me on his knee. I was a small chap then, and told me things that made me forget old Naylor, and wish that Mother could have stayed with us. The angels had wanted her, Father explained. Well, we wanted her too, and there were plenty of angels in heaven anyway. When I said this, Father gave me a great squeeze and put me down, and I tried to be glad that I was a Christmas child, but I wasn't really until a long time afterwards, when I had found the fairy ring and met the Queen of the Fairies. This is how it happened. Father and I lived at one end of a big town, in a funny old house with an orchard behind it, where the sparrows ate the cherries and the apple trees didn't flower. Once upon a time, said Father, there had been country all around it. But the streets and the roads had grown and grown until they drove the country away, and now there were trams outside the door and not a field to be seen. I often thought our garden must be sorry to be so crowded up, and that this was why it wouldn't grow anything but weedy nasturtiums and evening primroses. Father's a doctor, and most awfully clever. If you cut off the top of your finger, he'd pop it on again in no time, and he used to cure all sorts of illnesses with different colored medicines he made himself behind a screen. But though he had lots and lots of patients, sometimes the surgery was full of them. Especially on cold nights when there was a fire, they didn't seem to have much money to give him, and sometimes they ran away with their furniture in the night so as not to pay their bills. This worried Father dreadfully, and even Santa Claus was scared away by the things he said. On Christmas Eve the old fellow quite forgot to fill my stocking. It was all limp and empty when I woke in the morning, and if I hadn't remembered that when I grew up I was going to be a commander-in-chief, I should never have swallowed that lump in my throat. Father couldn't even take me to hear Hark the Herald Angels at the big church down the road that day, for someone sent for him in a hurry, and when he didn't come in for dinner, I wished it wasn't Christmas at all. Nancy Blake, who kept house for us and was most stingy over raisins, banged the kitchen door when I said I would make her some toffee, and I couldn't find anything else to do. I looked at all my books and pretended I was a soldier in a lonely fort. Then I thought I would make up medicine myself, so as to save Father trouble when he came home. But I burnt my fingers with some nasty stuff in a green bottle, and it hurt a good deal, so I determined to go meet him and tell him what I'd done. The trams were running as usual, and as I had a penny left out of my pocket money, I hadn't spent it before as it got stuck in some bullseyes, I took the car to the corner. Then I jumped out and walked. There wasn't a sign of Father at all down the road, and I remembered at last that he had said that he must look in at the hospital, which was in quite a different direction. I should have gone home then, if it hadn't been so dull with no one but Nancy Blake. He won't be back till tea time anyhow, I thought, and I made up my mind to be a Boy Scout and go and explore. It was a splendid day, and the roofs of the shops and houses glittered from millions of tiny points, just as you see on Christmas cards. I walked on, feeling gladder every moment, for my fingers had left off hurting me, and I knew that I couldn't be far from the woods, which were just outside the town. I had been there once with Father, and it was lovely, so I hurried on as quickly as I could. When I got there, they made me think of fairyland. The trees were sparkling with the same frost diamonds I had noticed on the roofs, and through the crisscross branches above my head the sky was as blue as blue. A jolly little robin was twittering in a bush, enjoying himself no end. His bright red breast reminded me of the holly I had stuck over Father's mantelpiece, and I began to feel sad again. For it did seem hard lines that though Christmas was my birthday, no one, not even Father, had thought of it. "I wish I hadn't been born on Christmas Day," I said aloud, when I had reached the very heart of the wood, and I sat down to rest on the stump of a tree close to a little circle of bright green. It was here I had come that day with Father, and he had told me that though it was called a fairy ring, it was really made by the spread of a very small fungus or mushroom. I liked the idea of the fairy ring much better, and as I touched it with my foot, I wished again that I wasn't a Christmas child.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?